I'm Marvel. This channel exists to connect gamers to MMOs they'll love. In this series, you'll follow in the footsteps of a complete newbie, delving the depths of Anarchy Online, an MMORPG so old school that it is older than some watching this video. Subscribe for more MMO content, and thanks for watching. In the last episode, Hellknot and Lustnot generously offered to help me navigate Arete, the newbie area for those beginning Anarchy Online. In our attempt to find an NPC who can help us use our bioanalyzing computer, we found ourselves being ambushed by an elite mob. The sound design is superb. Moreover, since I noticed that my health is a little low as a result of momentarily off tanking, I tried to use either healing kit, yet failed to successfully restore any HP. A developer should have added a tutorial on how to heal people. As I engage a melee, I begin to use my attack actions. While I did not know what I was doing at the time, Fast Attack, Damash, and Brawl are all special melee abilities categorically similar to skills in other MMOs. Oddly, I was able to use a healing vial on Hellknot. While it was not clear to me in the moment, it's because I specifically targeted him. Little did I know that you could also target yourself as a defensive target while in combat against a foe. Thankfully, we are victorious, yet it took the 3, or rather 4 of us to take it down. A bureaucrat worker seems to be a pet of Lustnot, who thus seems to be a bureaucrat, a futuristic necromancer class that instead of assembling skeletons infused with undead energy, builds non-sentient robots to do their bidding for them. Moreover, as I find new pants, I learn that I'm too weak and slow to wear them. So, I invest the necessary IP to solve the problem. But in typical old school fashion, those 2 stats are not enough. Another requirement is faction. In this case, I need to be Omni, but I'm not. I presume at this point that I have no association with any faction. But why drop loot that I cannot possibly equip at this point in time? This is frustrating and feels like I'm doing something wrong because the presumption is that I could have, or at least should have, joined a faction by now. As you'll see later, towards the end of the tutorial on Arete, you will be able to join a faction, either Omni, clans, or neutrals. But gear should not drop here with that requirement, since it has no use other than to confuse a new player. Game developers, please do not introduce a feature that is disabled to players unless you specifically frame it as eventually obtainable and aspirational. But this feels like falling off a bike you just began to learn, and your parent says, "You should have known this would happen, it's a bike after all." Not wrong, just frustrating. You then speak to the ambiguously gendered Alex, who is awestruck that we do not have an ID, namely because their expertise is fitting them to autotrons, not sentient humanoids. So our request is thus caught off guard. After giving to Alex the biocomputed we looted earlier, we're given a list of instructions. Before we discuss them, notice that the quest text is so long that it doesn't automatically fit my dialogue window. Either have the UI automatically fit or trim down the text. Be that as it may, we need to do some reconnaissance for Alex because his or her work budget has been slashed. To this end, we must hack a droid to plant an audio recording device. Once we're done, we need to meet Bill, a contact Alec has who has close ties to the ICC. This all connects because Alex needs information from us, and apparently Bill's connection can help us properly forge an ID. But we have to buy a burger first. Yes, you heard me correctly. See Barry, the food vendor, he sells burgers. We'll need to buy a Bronto burger. It's a quest item that we'll need later. This interaction shoots at 2 targets yet misses them both. This vendor is really teaching you how to buy items from a shop, but none of these items are actually useful and they're confusing. They're functionally weapons, and they only cost a few dozen credits. As you'll see later, this is unrealistically affordable. Moreover, it isn't obvious that the burger we're buying is even needed. As you will see in a later episode, there is a great shopping area in Arete already, so the inclusion here is both superfluous and another point of sheer confusion to the player. The next step in the mission we're on is to activate the Sec Tech Monitor. This is actually teaching you how you will eventually learn skills, yet doing so through a quest proxy. I prefer games to simplify this process because, in the moment, I was entirely lost as to what the game was actually trying to teach me. When you right-click the item, you loot a listening device. The UI presented here is an overflow pouch, which is a pleasant quality of life feature that you don't have to pay for. But the Sec Tech item is not used up and holds an additional purpose. Now, behold, sneaking. What's frustrating about this tutorial is that there is an actual sneaking tutorial later in Arete that actually requires you to sneak. Meaning, you actually have to click the sneak button to avoid detection, at least in theory. Moreover, notice that we're placing the listening device in a plant instead of hacking a robot? It seems like the designer of this particular area was not working with the other zone developers, because if you removed this area entirely from Arete, the player would both be less confused and better trained. We neither hacked nor snuck. But remember that Bronto burger? Desmond wants it. Badly. This gift is really a catalyst for him to discuss why he is paying Alex so little. But to extract more key information requires our assistance. Despite the conversation being a prophetic metaphor describing economies of Western nations with powerful corporations functioning as microgovernments, we need to help the underdog by, yeah, take a look for yourself. If this isn't a dystopian picture of the future, I don't know what is. Desmond then requests that to demonstrate his benevolence by caring for the poor by offering them jobs. We must silence their organizer because the organizer is promoting unions and fair working conditions. I hope YouTube's algorithm knows I'm speaking fictitiously here. The organizer is near the burger stand. Once defeated, he drops 3 exosuits. You can see that one is highlighted in my overflow panel. These seem to have been a quest reward because they were automatically looted, which admittedly is another pleasant quality of life feature. Apparently he wasn't wearing any of these because they're very useful items in the early game to keep you from dying. Like the backpack from the prior video, they can be worn on your back, yet as a costume can function like a Guild Wars 2 outfit despite not being locked behind a paywall. Each suit is preferred for a particular playstyle. Hellknot requests that I equip the Brute suit, mainly because it adds additional hit points, but since he can't see it, he knows that my social panel hasn't been turned on. Remember my complaint for that very reason from my prior video? There is a workaround, yet note, you cannot swap gear from the social panel directly into your cloth panel, which really means clothing, for an unknown and annoying reason. Yet, you can place it into your backpack and then equip. Standing nearby is Bill the officer, who wants the SecTac device. Remember that it has been synced to the listening probe in the office up the road. Bill complains of a surge of terrorist attacks in his shuttle port. Yet, after you give the device to him, he hears Desmond arranging such attacks which he calls accidents. Horrified, you're called upon to put a stop to this corporate terror against the same person from whom you also just committed atrocities. Will our ragtag team be able to bring down the big bad boss? Watch the next episode to find out. Thanks for watching.